Hi guys, so we are on number 13. We've already done up to 14 in class, and I'm sorry I'm behind, but hey, here we go. So we'll obviously be changing that 3 to 13. So we'll just do that now and make it easy. And then it says, I can explain how different plot elements work together to build a story, drama, or poem. All right, so we know explain, right? That just means to tell. And a plot element is parts of a story. And we know that drama means a play. So basically, we're going to tell how different parts of the story work together to build the story or the play or a poem. Am I reading it first? No. We're going to go straight to the question. Oh, this is a kind of long one. So we're going to go all the way over to number 5, which says, which of the following best describes the conflict of the story? And number 6 is, what is the resolution of the story? You guys should remember that, but just in case, conflict is the problem, and resolution is how it's solved. How it solves the problem. So basically, we're looking what is the conflict or the problem in the story, and how do they solve it? So, give me just a second, take off my jacket. I'm a little bit warm. All right, so I'm going to go back now to the very first page of this part of it, and it's called The Sweet Smelling Skunk. Get out of there! Go on now, get! Said Mrs. Donnelly to the rabbits. It wasn't that Mrs. Donnelly disliked rabbits. She just took great pride in her garden, and the rabbits were destroying her array of lush veggies and flowers. While inspecting the latest round of destruction to her garden, Mrs. Donnelly cried out, "Oh, my beautiful garden, it's just ruined!" Mrs. Donnelly's outcry startled or surprised something in her garden as the last remaining heads of lettuce shook back and forth. Mrs. Donnelly was startled or surprised at first, but she knew this could be her last chance to finally confront one of the rabbits face to face. "Show yourself, you ornery rabbit," said Mrs. Donnelly. Mrs. Donnelly pushed the head of lettuce to the side and was surprised to find a little skunk crying his heart out. It was such a sad sight that Mrs. Donnelly ignored the danger of getting sprayed by the skunk. "What's wrong with you? Why are you crying?" asked Mrs. Donnelly. The little skunk wiped away his tears and said, "Aren't you going to tell me to leave because of the way I smell? Everyone else does." "Of course not," said Mrs. Donnelly. "Anyone who says such things isn't very polite. Besides, your scent and spray is how you protect yourself." "I know, but try explaining that to the other animals in the neighborhood. All day long I get teased by the squirrels, rabbits, and raccoons. Do you know the Chesterfields who live 3 doors down from you?" asked the little skunk. "Yes, they're a very nice family," said Mrs. Donnelly. "Surely they don't make fun of you." "Oh, they don't, but their cat is downright mean. I guess if I had matted fur and fleas I would be mean too," laughed the little skunk. That's the spirit," said Mrs. Donnelly. "A sense of humor is a good remedy for when you're falling down. Pay no attention to that old cat or the other animals who tease you. They're not worth getting upset over." "Thank you, Mrs. Donnelly," said the little skunk. "How do you know my name?" Every animal in the neighborhood knows who you are. Your garden is legendary around these parts." "That reminds me, I caught you eating my garden too," said Mrs. Donnelly. "I know, and for that I'm really sorry, but the rabbits about polished off everything anyways." Mrs. Donnelly just nodded and with a smile and said, "What's your name, my little friend?" "My name is Skippy," said the skunk. "Well, follow me, Skippy," said Mrs. Donnelly. "I have an idea I believe would take care of both our problems." As Skippy followed Mrs. Donnelly into the house, she talked passionately about gardening. She vowed her garden would be better than ever and promised Skippy all the food he'd eat if he helped her to tend it or to take care of it. "I don't know anything about gardening," said Skippy. "Don't worry," said Mrs. Donnelly. "I'll take care of that." "How am I going to help then?" said Skippy. Mrs. Donnelly was standing beside a large piano and wistfully stroking the keys with one hand. "Do you sing, Skippy?" "Well, only when I'm in the shower." "Perfect," said Mrs. Donnelly. "That will do." Though Mrs. Donnelly was old and frail, she got behind her piano and moved it across the room. "How on earth did you move such a large piano by yourself?" asked Skippy. Mrs. Donnelly laughed and said, "Oh, wheels can make anything possible." Skippy looked under the piano, and sure enough, the wheels glided with ease as Mrs. Donnelly continued to push it across the floor. She didn't stop pushing the piano until it was right next to her garden. Once the piano was placed there, Mrs. Donnelly said, Mrs. Donnelly and Skippy walked right back inside the house. Several animals in the neighborhood gathered around to discuss what was going on. "It must be dreaming," said one of the rabbits. "Why is there a piano by Miss Donnelly's garden, and what is Skippy doing in her house?" "I don't know, have a clue," said an old and wise raccoon. "This is most peculiar." At that moment, all the animals' attention shifted back to Mrs. Donnelly and Skippy as they approached the garden with a wagon full of flowers and seeds in tow. Mrs. Donnelly took a shovel from the wagon and started to dig holes throughout her garden. She took the flowers and seeds and placed them in the holes. Skippy tapped each hole with his tail to make sure the flowers and seeds were snug and then sprayed each side of Mrs. Donnelly's yard. He ensured his spray wasn't too close to the garden, but close enough to give fair warning to any animal close by. Mrs. Donnelly clapped her hands and motioned for Skippy to join her. Skippy ran back as fast as he could and jumped atop the piano. Mrs. Donnelly gave Skippy a wink, and with a smile he sat by her side. She struck the keys of the piano with all of her might as she and Skippy began to sing. "This is my garden. This is our garden, clean without rust. Keeping it safe is surely a must. Anyone trying to ruin where it lies will feel the stink of skunk spray right in their eyes." Over and over they sang, "This is our garden, clean without rust. Keeping it safe is surely a must. Anyone trying to ruin where it lies will feel the sting of skunk spray right in their eyes." As Mrs. Donnelly continued to sing, she placed a flower over Skippy's ear. Skippy jumped off the piano with the grace of an Olympic diver and flipped over on his back. He smiled at all the animals that were looking on in disbelief. Skippy waved his tail at them and also dangled the flower Mrs. Donnelly gave him. It was a rose that Mrs. Donnelly had given Skippy, and no skunk had ever smelled so sweet. All right, so we want to know the conflict. We know two, right? Mrs. Donnelly has animals eating her garden, and the skunks getting teased. So let's see if we can find something that fits. So Mrs. Donnelly needed to get rid of the horrible skunk smell in her garden. He was actually doing it for her, so A is out. B, Mrs. Donnelly wanted to play the piano in her garden. I don't know if she wanted to, but it was part of her plan, right? So that's definitely out. Skippy was spraying all the animals with skunk spray. No, because he was crying while he hid from all. So that means D has to be the animal. Her garden is getting eaten and he's being made fun of. So how did we solve this problem? Skippy sprayed Mrs. Donnelly? I don't think that would solve anything. In fact, probably would make it worse. C. Skippy sprayed the edge of the garden to keep animals away, and Mrs. Donnelly played a tune to keep the animals away from her garden. Well, let's put a question mark. That's sounding pretty good because that's kind of what she did, but I don't know if it's the only one, and we have two more answers to check. C. Skippy ate all the vegetables in the garden and let all the animals in to eat too? No. And D. Mrs. Donnelly's garden died because he sprayed it? No, because he says right there that he ensured his spray wasn't too close to the garden. So we know that C and D is out and B is our answer. So that's it. See you later.